My son married his high school girlfriend when he was 19. I told him I didn't approve of his choice for 2 reasons. First, he's too young, and we never liked his girlfriend, so I will never help him with anything. They have 2 kids, Jonah, male nearly adult, and Laura, female teen. When Laura was born, my son begged me for help because they couldn't afford childcare for 2 kids, even though they both work full-time, and neither of them could become a stay-at-home parent because they needed the money. Even though I told him I wouldn't help, I decided to help anyway because of my grandkids. I hired a nanny for them. The problem is that whenever we were at their home, I noticed that his wife only takes care of Jonah and leaves Laura completely to the nanny. I never saw her play with Laura or anything, while she was always holding Jonah and playing with him. Once I told her it wouldn't kill her to touch her daughter sometimes, which caused a huge fight between us, and I fired the nanny and told them the only help I would give was that I would babysit Laura for them and pay for everything she needs, but I won't help with anything else. So my wife and I took care of Laura more than her parents did. My sweet daughter is a teenager. I bought a car for her. She earned some of the money by helping me with my job, and I paid for the rest. Jonah's turning 18 in a few months, and my son asked me to help buy a car for him. I told him I was sorry, but I won't do that, because I clarified that I would only help with Laura's expenses. He accused me of showing favoritism and called me an idiot, being a terrible grandfather for giving one child a luxurious life, but not doing anything for the other one. I told him I was doing this because he and his wife were terrible parents to Laura, so someone needed to favor her. His wife shows clear favoritism toward their son, so I believe someone needs to look out for their daughter. Am I the idiot? Edit. I started babysitting her when she was a preschooler and sent her back to her parents every day after they came back from work. By 11, she was almost living with us full time because she didn't want to go home. She calls her grandmother and me dad and mom. I'll give you an example. A few months ago, their mom decided to take them out. Laura was so excited because she usually didn't show much interest in spending time with her. She came back to my home crying her eyes out because her mom took them to Starbucks and made her pay for her own order while she paid for herself and Jonah. Everyone's the idiot here. You thought it was wrong that your daughter-in-law showed favoritism, so you responded by showing favoritism? Are you familiar with the phrase, 2 wrongs don't make a right? You and your son are fighting through his children. This is horrible. It's not your grandson's fault that his parents are idiots. Don't take it out on him. By all means, tell your son and daughter-in-law to pound sand, but don't take it out on the kids. Auntie refers to Laura as his daughter. Is she their do-over baby or what? Then there's, we never liked his girlfriend, so I will never help him with anything. It must kill OP that they're still married 20 years later. 20 years of holding a grudge for no particular reason? Crazy. No particular reason. LOL, okay, except for the fact that she's the type of person to happily neglect her daughter. OP made a judgment call on her personality, and guess what? He was right. She was who he thought she was. The wife was neglecting the daughter based on what? Obviously biased word of this grandparent that shouldn't be a grandparent? The only objective evidence of lacking parenting is that he claims that she holds the son more than the daughter. Well, there are myriad reasons why that could have been that had nothing to do with neglect. You're basing your belief that there are neglectful parents on an obviously biased individual selectively giving a story as to why they chose their granddaughter over the grandson to spoil. You are the idiot, and I refuse to believe you don't know it. You decided you hated your son's wife well before Laura was even born, and not only constructed this narrative in your head to justify that hatred, but have carried it for decades past the point where any of your already flimsy evidence even holds up. The only person guilty of blatant favoritism and mistreatment here is you. And again, I refuse to believe you don't know it, or you'd be able to present even a single reason for writing Jonah off on any other basis than that you've just decided to scapegoat him alongside his mom. OP, You literally stole Laura from her parents and made it so they couldn't have a relationship because you're whispering in everybody's ear about how your daughter-in-law is a terrible mother. Then you manipulated Laura against her parents and wondered why they only have a relationship with Jonah. My wife and I are on a budget. We both have decent jobs, but we also have a fair bit of debt. We want to be in a better financial position before we start a family. My wife has a terrible habit of not being entirely truthful about stuff. I'll ask her if she picked up groceries for supper or whether I should stop on the way home, and she'll say she got them. Then when I got home, there are no groceries, and she'll say that she meant to do it before I got home, but forgot. She just got a new phone on Black Friday last year. She's rough on her phones. So we went on Amazon and found a case that she liked. We ordered it. I got the delivery notification while I was at work, out of town. I asked her if she had put the case on her new phone. She said yes. When I got home a couple of days later, I saw the Amazon box unopened, and her new phone had a crack on it already. She said my call reminded her, and she meant to do it but got busy. She does this constantly. I've asked her just to please be truthful. I had to go out again after I got home to get groceries. I don't really care about that. It's just a pain in the butt to leave the house to get them when I could have stopped at the store on my way home. Much easier. She complained about her new phone being broken, and we paid for the repair out of our budget. It may have gotten broken even with the case, but I feel that's unlikely. So now if I ask her a question about something important, I verify the answer. If we have to go somewhere on the weekend and we need a full tank of gas, I'll ask her if she filled it up or if we need to stop on our way out of town. If she says she filled it, I will ask her for a picture of the fuel gauge. To my complete astonishment, she texted me that she would do it before I got home. She says that I'm being petty and a jerk for not trusting her word. I can't trust her about some stuff. I'm just sick of having to change plans because she chooses to lie. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Oh, it sounds like you're married to a pathological liar. There's a difference between I did and I will. Why is this so hard for her? Did you get the groceries? No, but I will after work. I agree this relationship sounds exhausting. It sounds like you're already starting to resent her a bit. And who could blame you? That's incredibly irresponsible and exhausting for the other person because it puts an undue burden of extra work on you. OP, honestly, your current strategy doesn't sound sustainable and is only going to breed further resentment on both sides. Have you had a serious conversation with your wife about this yet? Not about the situations as they arise, but about the situation as a whole. Also, has your wife ever been diagnosed with ADHD? I do not mean to diagnose anyone third hand, but meaning to do things and forgetting about them can be a symptom of ADHD. Even if it turns out she does, it's still her responsibility to stay on top of her tasks and errands. But going to therapy to work on strategies to combat this might help, if she's open to it. I was reading this and thought the same thing. I have ADHD diagnosed, and occasionally I will say I did something because I had full intentions of doing it, then forget. Most of the time I tell the truth, and I'll do it before I get home. I know it's annoying. I annoy myself sometimes. OP, please get her some therapy. This happened last week, and my mom and sister are still upset. My wife gave birth a month ago. We usually do Thanksgiving at my mom's house, but with the new baby, we decided to do it at our house this year, with mom and sister coming over early to cook. The baby had a terrible night the night before Thanksgiving. When my mom and sister came over to cook, I warned them that the baby and wife were finally sleeping, so please be quiet. My sister repeatedly made noise and woke up the baby multiple times. I kept warning her. She said she wasn't trying to make a lot of noise and was just cooking and trying to be as quiet as she could. By the third time, my wife was in tears, and so was the baby. My wife flipped and demanded I get everyone out of the house. I didn't want to kick my mom out, but since my sister was the one making the noise, I told her just to leave before my wife lost it more. She argued with me, but eventually left, and my mom went with her. They ended up going to a restaurant to eat. We ordered takeout, and a lot of the uncooked food went to waste. Wife is still upset because she thinks they should have been more considerate of the baby, and the baby's first Thanksgiving was ruined. Mom and sister are upset because they claimed they were being as quiet as they could, and we kicked them out anyway. Am I the idiot for kicking my sister out after she repeatedly woke the baby? You are the idiot, and your wife is ridiculous if she actually said, baby's first Thanksgiving was ruined. This is an infant, and it barely knows anything. You shouldn't have offered to host at all with a newborn in your home. You should not have asked people to come over early to cook and then hassled them about making noise in the kitchen. I cackled at that point. Baby doesn't even remember it has feet if they're not in the direct line of sight, so I wouldn't worry too much about first Thanksgiving memories. OP, get over yourselves. Thanksgiving requires noise. Having company makes noise. Demanding you host and that everyone walk on eggshells for your baby is untenable. Throwing out your family and wasting food is awful. This situation is entirely your creation and bad choices, possibly due to being new parents and lacking sleep. It sounds like they weren't even hosting, since they weren't the ones cooking or preparing anything either. They just wanted the day to be spent at their house so they could be comfortable, but they still wanted everyone else to do the work. A far better solution would have been, hey, I hate to change this up, but my wife is 4 weeks postpartum, suffering, and this isn't working. Let's go to a restaurant to buy a meal, my treat. Preferably sending your mom and sister to get the food while you stay home and take care of the baby if they wake up. I'm a 29-year-old female. The players are my mom, stepdad, and 4 step-siblings, 35 male, 37 male, 40 female, and 42 male, and their families. I'm the black sheep, the only one not married with kids, but that's my preference. I love living alone. I don't want kids, and having a partner just isn't that important. My family's been asking me, when am I going to get a boyfriend and settle down since I was 19? And the answer has always been, ew, never. I was going to skip Thanksgiving, but my mom insisted that she wanted everyone home this year, if possible, so I went. It was the usual drill, but the youngest stepbrother and his wife were having another kid, so that was the big announcement. That was fine until around the end of the dinner. One of the stepsisters-in-law asked if I was anxious to have kids, since I was almost 30 and time was running out. I laughed and said, nah, I'm good. That led to one of the stepbrothers saying that every family needs an old maid aunt, and some other comments I didn't appreciate. I said, let's move on. But my mom said, we're just worried about you. This is where I'm possibly the idiot. I know all the family dirt, so I said, well, I'm the only person at this table that's not an alcoholic, a cheater, or constantly broke because I have more kids than I can afford, so I'm not the one to worry about. And that's how I brought Thanksgiving to a dead halt, and no one said a thing for the rest of the dinner, but my texts are still radioactive. I felt like it was probably riding the line, and my mom says that this has caused many problems among the siblings, but they also kind of started it. Not the idiot, ha ha ha. Excellent. Hands down the best Thanksgiving showstopper ever. They messed around and found out. And I guarantee that nobody will be asking you about your choices anymore. They like to dish it out, but can't take it. Iconic moment. I'm happy for you, OP. Your mom insisted you join them for Thanksgiving. That wasn't your plan or what you wanted, but you were a good soul and agreed. To make you feel welcome and happy to be with your family on a big holiday, your family started with inappropriate comments and digs, putting you on the spot with everyone watching. You asked them to stop, and then the mom, who insisted on family unity, doubled down on the implied criticism. They played an unwanted family game with you and won unwanted prizes. On the upside, you may have a permanent pass from upcoming family gatherings. I take that as a win. Perhaps these events would be more interesting to OP and everyone else if she started the next dinner with, if I get any hassle, I'll name names for the alcoholic, cheater, and spendthrift. Don't tempt me. Your family simply got back what they dished out. I always thought this was weird and creepy. Boundary stomping aside, constantly asking someone about marriage and children when they're not even in a long-term committed relationship is backward and nonsensical to me. Should she be desperately trying to shack up with any random man because biological clock? Maybe some people don't bother to worry about children in marriage until they find someone worth planning that with first. Exactly. They wanted to make her the scapegoat child and make it look like she's in the wrong just for having different opinions, while it's the step-siblings who mess stuff up, but it's okay because they have normal lives. OP, keep on calling them on their crap if they keep bothering you. Of course they give you a lot of crap now, but trust me, that's the only way they'll leave you alone in the long run. I, female 19, live in the student halls. I have several roommates and we all have our own bedrooms. Last week at around 6 a.m., someone knocked on my bedroom door. I was still half asleep and getting ready for work, but I wasn't expecting anyone. Normally, resident support sends us an email to notify us weeks in advance if there will be any maintenance. So I ignored them, and they kept knocking for around 20 minutes before they went away. When I got home from work at around 4 p.m., I noticed I had a voicemail from resident support demanding that I go to their office. I went to their office and they confronted me, saying that one of their maintenance guys knocked on my door and he could hear me on the other side, but I ignored him. I said they hadn't notified me that there would be any maintenance, and even if they had, I had to get ready for work, so I couldn't worry about letting the maintenance guy in and out of my room. They said I was being unreasonable, making the maintenance guy's job unnecessarily difficult and wasting his time. They told me to grow up and realize the world doesn't revolve around me. They told me the maintenance guy would come back to my room at 9 a.m. the next day. I told them I wouldn't be there as I had an 8 a.m. lecture. They implied I skipped the class and said that it was the least I could do for being so annoying. I told them that their ideas of reasonable maintenance times for students are stupid and that most of us are busy on weekday mornings. They called me naive. My roommate told me that the next day, the maintenance guy knocked on my door for about 10 minutes straight, even though I told them I wouldn't be in. I'm just wondering if I'm the idiot here because I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. The maintenance isn't urgent or anything. They need to check the light bulbs. Not the idiot. 6 a.m. is an unreasonable time for a maintenance person to arrive at your dorm room, especially without forewarning or there being a significant emergency that you would have known about. In pretty much any other living circumstance, notification of entry is required, and it's on the dorm office for not having made you aware of the maintenance person's arrival that made his job difficult. What if you hadn't been there? If anyone knocked on my door at 6 a.m., they better be on fire. I'd be willing to bet they didn't send notice because nobody would agree to 6 a.m., and they didn't want the hassle of complaints. Wonder how that's working out for them. Don't let them make you feel unreasonable because you're in the right here. You are renting for them, so you have renter's rights. Depending on the country, you usually should be given notice of 24 or 48 hours, and it has to be a reasonable hour. I don't believe 6 a.m. is a reasonable time. You're paying for your room, so they aren't doing you a favor by letting you stay there. Tell them a time you are available and suggest they come then. I would also talk to the student union or counseling too and get a complaint made.